In this video, we will discuss about the methods of separation. So before discussing the several methods, we will study about the need for the separation of components of mixtures. Like, why do we need to separate those components? We need many substances for purposeful uses in our daily life, but most of these substances are available in the form of mixtures. These mixtures contain unwanted substances which degrade their properties. For example, cereals like rice, wheat, or pulses often contain small stones, husks, etc. as impurities. Before cooking, these impurities need to be removed since they are harmful. The second example is common salt is an important substance used in our food to add taste and nutrients. It is present in seawater in plenty in the form of a mixture. Therefore, it is necessary to separate common salt from seawater for its purposeful uses. The purpose of separating the constituents of a mixture are: first, to remove the undesirable and harmful substances; second, to get useful substances; and third, to get completely pure substance for preparing other useful substances. For example, water is required in its purest form to prepare medicines, in laboratories for preparing solution, and car batteries, etc. Therefore, all the impurities present in water need to be removed. Now we will come to the topic method of separation. So what is separation? The process by which constituents of a mixture are set apart from one another to get pure substances is called separation. The principle of separation depends upon two things. First, the type of the mixture, and second, characteristic properties of the mixture such as size, shape, color, density, melting point, boiling point, solubility, ability to sublime, volatility, magnetic nature, etc. Thus, for different types of mixtures, different methods are applied to separate the components. Now, first type is separation of solid-solid type of mixture. These are done with several processes. The first process we will discuss is hand picking. This method of separation can be used when the quantity of a mixture is small and the substance to be separated forms a small portion of the mixture. The substance should be large enough in size to be recognized by the naked eyes and picked out by hand. Small stones are picked out from rice, pulses, and spices by this method. Now, the second process to separate the solid-solid type of mixture is winnowing. The process of separation of grain from husk and hay with the help of wind is called winnowing. This method is used to separate light solids from heavier ones. This technique is generally used by farmers. For example, take a mixture of rice and husk. When it is allowed to fall from a height, the rice grains, being heavier, fall vertically, while the husk gets blown away by air and forms a heap at a small distance away from the heap of the rice. In this way, the rice is separated from the husk. Now, the third method of separation of solid-solid type of mixture is magnetic separation. Now, this method is used when one of the components of the mixture is magnetic in nature, that is, gets attracted towards a magnet, like iron gets attracted towards a magnet, and hence can be separated by this method. For example, mixtures of iron and sulfur, iron and sand can be separated by moving a magnet over them. Iron gets attached to the magnet and is separated. The fourth method to separate the solid-solid type of mixture is gravitational method. This method is used only when one of the components is much heavier than water and the other component is much lighter than water. If a mixture of sand and sawdust is put in water, sawdust, being lighter, floats while sand settles down. Now, sawdust with water is slowly decanted and transferred to another container and then filtered to separate the sawdust. The fifth process to separate the solid-solid type of mixture is sublimation, the process in which a solid changes directly into its vapors on heating is called sublimation. This method is used for solid mixtures in which one of the components can sublime on heating. The solid which sublimes escapes as vapors while the other one is left behind. For example, mixture of sand and iodine, common salt and ammonium chloride are separated by sublimation. On cooling, the vapor again turns into a solid. Camphor, naphthalene, iodine and ammonium chloride undergo sublimation. Now we will go for an activity to separate common salt and ammonium chloride. Take a mixture of common salt and ammonium chloride and place it in a dish and cover with an inverted funnel and heat it. On heating, ammonium chloride changes into vapor which condenses into a solid in the neck of the funnel, from where it may be scraped off, whereas common salt is left behind in the dish. The sixth method to separate the solid-solid type of mixture is the solvent extraction method. This method is used when one of the solid components is soluble in a liquid. For example, a mixture of sand and salt can be separated by this method. Salt gets dissolved in water while the sand settles down in the container. The salt solution is then filtered. Salt is separated from the solution by evaporation. In this way, they can be separated. Now we'll talk about the separation of solid-liquid type of mixture. These mixtures can be homogeneous, a sugar solution for example, or heterogeneous, a mixture of sand and water for example. Different methods are used depending upon the type of the mixture. The first method to separate the solid-liquid type of mixture is sedimentation and decantation. The settling down of the suspended insoluble heavy solid particles in a solid-liquid mixture when left undisturbed is called sedimentation. The solid which settles down at the bottom is called the sediment, while the clear liquid above is called the supernatant liquid. The process of pouring out the clear liquid without disturbing the sediment is called decantation. This method is used for a heterogeneous mixture of solid and liquid where the solid component is insoluble and heavier than the liquid component. For example, a mixture of sand and water, rice and water, etc. Now we'll demonstrate an activity over here. Take some rice and water in a beaker and stir it. And now allow the mixture to stand for some time. You will see that the rice settles down at the bottom. This is called sedimentation. Now pour the water gently into another vessel without disturbing the rice. This is called decantation. The second method to separate the solid-liquid type of mixture is filtration. The process of separating insoluble solid particles from a liquid by allowing it to pass through a filter is called filtration. This process is used for separating the components of a heterogeneous solid-liquid mixture in which solids are insoluble in liquids. The substances that can be used as filters are a layer of sand, charcoal, cotton, glasswool, unglazed porcelain, filter paper, etc. Even the strainer that we use to separate the liquid tea from tea leaves is a filter. These filters now allow the liquids to pass through them but not the solids. The insoluble solid left on the filter is called the residue, while the liquid which passes through the filter is called the filtrate. For example, the mixtures like chalk and water, clay and water, tea and tea leaves, sawdust and water are separated by filtration method. The third method to separate the solid-liquid mixture is evaporation. Evaporation is the process of converting a liquid into its vapor state either by exposing it to air or by heating. This method is used to separate the components of homogeneous solid-liquid mixture like salt from seawater. The seawater is collected in shallow beds and allowed to evaporate in the sun. When all the water is evaporated, salt is left behind. By this method, we get only the solid, whereas the liquid escapes in the form of vapors. For separating a solid from a solution, we usually evaporate it until whole of the liquid escapes in its vapor form. Crystallization is the third method where we'll be talking about the solid-liquid separation. It is a process in which the slow evaporation of a solution containing more of the solid component is done. Point to be noted here is the crystals are the solid particles with definite shape and size. They are lustrous too. For example, sugar particles are cubical and they shine. At first, the sugar solution is heated to evaporate water at a faster speed. When very less of water is left, the solution is cooled. On cooling, sugar dissolved in it starts separating out in the form of crystals. Next process to separate solid liquid type of mixture is distillation. Distillation is the method of getting a pure liquid from a solution by evaporating and then condensing vapors. When the solution is heated, this liquid component of the mixture evaporates in the form of vapors. These vapors are then condensed back into the liquid form, which is very pure and is called the distillate. Tap water, which is a mixture containing dissolved salts, is purified by distillation. The pure water so obtained is called distilled water. It is used by doctors for preparation of medicines, by chemists for making solutions, and in industries for preparing certain substances. The advantage of this process is that both the components of the solid liquid mixture are obtained. The next process to separate the solid liquid type of mixture is centrifugation. Centrifugation is the method of separating solids from liquids where the mixture is homogeneous. This is also called churning. The process is used to separate the components of a mixture which differ in their density. Apparatus called centrifuge is used for this purpose. The mixture is placed in the centrifuge tube and rotated at a high speed, due to which the heavier solid particles of higher density settle at the bottom and the light solid particles of lower density float on the liquid. Cream is separated from milk by this method. At home, we use mixers or traditional churners to separate cream from milk. This process is used even now in dairies and washing machines. This principle is used to squeeze water from wet clothes.